friends, hope you are well. Welcome to this week's Dirt Report about tech and telco news all around Australia. Actually, if you're new to this channel, I hope you enjoyed today's video and potentially consider subscribing or even tapping that like button. It really does help. So this week in the news, it has been pretty darn crazy. Lots of news around that which cannot be named on YouTube for fear of demonetization in the first 30 seconds. Yeah, that's right. YouTube is striking down any video that talks about that topic. And personally, I think it's a little bit unfair, but here we are. You see, there is a lot of misinformation about the current events, and companies like Facebook and YouTube are trying to get in front of it, clamp down on it. So far, things are not getting better, and more stringent rules are in place to keep our community safe. Make sure to keep on top of those. And remember, what we do now will be paying off in the next few weeks. Not tomorrow, not the next day, it's about the long term. And you may also have noticed that every man and his dog is sending out emails on how they are dealing with the current state of affairs. And so today's topics are going to cover how our infrastructure is coping with more and more people working from home. And if we can fit in today a few more smaller topics, if not, there will be another video, so stay tuned for that. Let's start with the obvious one. As more and more office workers are moved to work from home, the NBN has started to take a beating. The race to rock bottom has started by Telstra when they removed the 100 down plans. We know that fibre to the node technology was doomed from the get-go, but because of the amount of people on it, we hoped that the support would be there. Now, fibre to the node suffers from many issues. First off, it's an old copper line, meaning distance from the node is the biggest problem, and it cannot be fixed with just the press of a button. It requires a major rebuild. Secondly, like we've talked about in the past, internal home wiring is also at fault here. Comparably, over in New Zealand, 87% of premises will have access to FTTP by the end of 2022. And now fibre to the premises is already delivering gigabit speeds to many customers across the ditch. And meanwhile, NBN Co continues to post staggering losses and is having to borrow more than the $19 billion the government originally promised. Now, long-term financial success requires upselling customers to the faster speed packages where margins are better. But that's proving a tad difficult with a mix of such inferior technologies. Now, many Australians will realize that just because you can watch Netflix on your NBN at home doesn't mean that they can work from home on the same national network. On Saturday, 14th March, NBN Co said network traffic was up by more than 5% on the previous Saturday. So what is NBN Co doing about it? Well, they're starting with the RSPs, providing them with more leeway in bandwidth. You remember we talked about how RSPs do not buy enough bandwidth, aka CVC, for peak times, and then when peak times happen, your speeds tank completely. Well, NBN Co's response to ease congestion is to allow temporary, of course, RSPs to access extra bandwidth on as required basis. This means that during peak times, RSPs will not have to pay for up to 40% of the increase in bandwidth usage. What this should mean for end users is no noticeable change to the performance of their internet service, even if they wind up being used a whole lot more. However, this does not affect those with already bad speeds and connection issues that are unrelated to bandwidth, as solving the bandwidth issue only works for those who already have great speeds. While during this outbreak we will find out which meeting could have been an email, you'll at least be able to see and hear your coworkers on a video conference if you end up having that meeting. All in all, this is a really good thing for RSPs. Not only does it help them financially, but it also helps end users from storming the RSP's offices demanding more internet. Minister for Communication Paul Fletcher said NBN Co had moved quickly to implement new arrangements to support the productivity and connectivity needs of Australia amid the necessary community response to COVID-19. Look, thanks NBN Co, thanks when thanks are due. But you can't take a step forward without taking a few back. Isn't that the motto of the NBN? On the other side, they have canned their offer of half price for first timers. If you remember, just before Christmas, NBN Co wanted to encourage those who have yet to connect to the network or are resisting to connect with an offer they just cannot refuse. The offer was expected to run for the first 6 months of 2020 and could have boosted NBN Co's reportable take-up numbers in time for the completion of the volume build mid-year. But that has been canned 2 months earlier than planned. Here is what the statement said. NBN Co introduced the first timer discount on 1st January 2020 with an expiry date of 30th June 2020. To date, NBN Co has received positive feedback on the discount. However, industry has noted that with the release of new NBN footprint during financial year 2020 and various consultation processes on foot, including for the next wholesale broadband agreement, the focus on unconnected premises is likely to occur financial year 2021 and onwards. NBN Co will not provide the discount to those connecting after 15th April 2020, but they will try again in 2021. Let's keep going. Now, with the current state of affairs, NBN Co is under heavy pressure to do something about their pricing during this period to ease the burden on households. We already know that our internet is one of the most expensive services on the planet with very little performance for the dollar. Well, is there going to be any relief for NBN customers? After all, when parents and kids are home, they all want to use the internet for much needed entertainment. And I don't think anyone will be saying go play outside, little Jimmy. Shadow Minister for Communication Michelle Rowland said that consideration should be given to provide retail providers with temporary capacity charge relief in the event NBN speeds become congested as COVID-19 leads more employees and children to use the internet at home. They did, however, not say anything about households. You see, in the US, for example, regulators struck agreements with telcos for certain hardship provisions to remain in place, preventing them from cutting off services in the event that a person could not temporarily pay their bill. Something that might be necessary to do here when some internet service plans cost upwards of $100 per month and are locked in for 2 years, plus, let's say, mobile providers. So far, Aussie Broadband made an announcement that it would allow any remaining customers on 12/1 speeds plans to change to the 25 down 5 up plan to help them work from home if required, temporarily stop all service suspensions due to late repayments, and provide unmetered data between 6 AM to 6 PM for all customers on limited data NBN and ADSL plans. Doesn't really matter for unlimited plans. And Telstra is not charging late payment fees or suspending services for bills that become overdue between Thursday 19th March and Thursday 30th April 2020. Late payment fees may apply for bills that become overdue before 19th March 2020 and after 30th April 2020. NBN Co CEO Stephen Rue had unfortunately not mentioned any relief package for customers that would come from NBN Co itself. It is left up to the RSPs to do so at this stage. From one point of view, NBN Co only services the RSPs, so whether they do has to help them, and then we hope that we can get some trickle-down relief, even though trickle-down economics are bull. And just like any bank, each want to save their own profit margin. However, this is a major global event. Without large companies actually stepping up, the soon-to-be recession will be much worse than imagined. One thing to note, significant events like this have been known to be the only way where a large distribution of wealth is possible. That's something to ponder. Just look at the dramatic reduction of CO2, and then when things start to ramp up again, will you support a company that is going to start polluting again? Let me know below. Alright, I'm going off topic now too quickly. Friends, thank you very much for watching this week's episode. I'll be back in the next day or so with an extra edition of the Dirt Report. There are many news topics to cover, so stay tuned. If you like this video, then tap that like button. If you would like to see more, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot. Thanks again, and bye!